Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, Dash here for another Wednesday live edition of Oilers Live. Michael couldn't make it tonight. It's unfortunate. I think he is suffering heavily from what I understand. He might have what Dusty has. We don't know. Might be a split end. Might be a hangnail. LBI, UBI. I just know he's SOFT. Probably tired of me disagreeing with him and talking over him. Anyways, Michael will try to make it back next week. We've got a big lineup here to join us instead. As always, big thanks to Edmonton Sports Talk for supporting us and giving us this platform, allowing us to be part of the Friends of EST line. Dusty, Eric, Maddie, Tommy, just thanks for all of this. Thanks for being epic people. Now that I've kicked the boss's butt, get that out of the way. Here we are, Oilers Live. Got a couple of guests tonight. After the Utah Hockey Club gave Vegas a 6-0 bare butt spanking, the Golden Knights thought they'd come into Edmonton looking to pick the proverbial dog, if you will. Quite a game last night, but we'll get into that. First up, as always, we've got Ryan Lotsberg. Lotsy's with us as the sidekick today. How you doing, Lotsy?
Good, Dash, and yourself?
I'm doing fine, man. Always fun to do this with you. The third
Absolutely.
voice hearing on tonight's show is probably familiar if you're a fan of any type of Oilers content or absorbing every Oilers content you can get. I've been a big fan of Patrick's for a long time. He is the newest member of the Heavy Hockey Network family. Patrick, I'd probably consider this maybe the biggest Edmonton free agent signing since Zach Hyman. Welcome to Heavy Hockey. Welcome to Oilers Live. Welcome to EST. Do you actually know what you're getting yourself into?
Well, having a rough start here. I was trying to get the pod going and have my video upside down. So, it's we'll get it going right side up here, but absolutely thrilled to join you guys. Been a fan of Heavy Hockey for a long time, EST, of course. And yeah, I started my own channel, the Oilers Fanatic, about 3 years ago. I'm sure that's where most of you guys know me from. Try to cover the latest on the Edmonton Oilers and just looking to expand my horizons here with a great group at Heavy Hockey. So just thrilled to join you guys and can't wait to get started.
Yeah. Happy to have you, man. I think like the first item on the resume is you must be a good person, and you check that box very well. And I know that's the second thing is being an Oilers fan, and thank you for being a fan. So look, let's get into last night's game. Hey, I kind of thought it was a playoff style pace almost. Look, 0 penalties was kind of special or weird, and we didn't get to see the special teams. The Oilers out-hit a team. Like, that's a shock. The Oilers outshot the team. That's not a shock. I'd say we dominated the first 10 minutes. Maybe the next 30 minutes were pretty even. That last 15 to 20, 10 for sure, was pretty dominant for the Oilers again. Statistically, we were all over that thing. We had the high dangers out of 28 shots. I think we had 12 or 14 high danger shots. Couldn't beat Aiden Hill. We got goalied again, I think, guys. Ryan, let's start with you. What'd you think?
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't get a chance to sit and watch it in full. I caught the highlights, but it seemed like a 1-0 game where you don't like the goal against. Things happen. One mistake ends up in the back of your net, and they're not able to capitalize on any of the good chances that they were able to generate all night long. So, yeah, maybe they got goalied. Maybe they just can't finish. There's a greater issue somewhere in there. Like, they got to find a way to start scoring some goals because they're actually starting to get some good performances from Stuart Skinner, and they got to capitalize on those when they get them.
Yeah, couldn't finish. Ekholm's Swedish, if you're talking about the one mistake. That's not a very good joke. I'm sorry. And is that who made the mistake, Lotsy? right? Like, I mean, I've heard enough about, oh, Skinner should have stopped that puck and it's a pass and why is he playing the pass? And like,
No,
which is all BS
I
in
put that
my
on
eyes. But
Leon. I put that on Leon with the turnover at the offensive blue line. That was way too cute of a play to make that
yeah,
high in your offensive zone. Like it was an unfortunate pass, like an unfortunate bounce. I mean, like the pass did get released, right? So Skinner is going across as if it was a pass, but
yeah,
it bounced right back to the guy off of Ekholm. And Skinner didn't have his feet set because he was moving across the other way. It's like I don't think any goaltender's saving that on that play. Like I don't put that on Skinner. Ekholm did the right thing by trying to go down the block the pass, so I don't put that on him. Unlucky bounce.
yeah. Barbie Barbashev kind of tried to make the pass there, and I think Skinner has to react to that because if it goes through, then he looks stupid the other way, right? So, yeah, totally agree. Patrick, what do you think, man? How's the game last night?
Wasn't it Bouchard that was trying to block that pass? Not Ekholm? I
At
thought
the
it was
blue line?
I thought, or well, maybe at the blue line. Yeah, I thought it was Bouchard that went down on the
Yeah, it
2
was
on
Bouchard and
Yeah,
back.
Bouchard
I
went
can't
down.
remember now.
But
Okay, yeah,
but
okay, yeah, sorry.
Ekholm kind of was caught deep or
Yeah,
pinched as
okay, yeah.
Draisaitl got cute, and then
Yeah,
the
sorry,
puck
I'm
went the
following
other
you
way.
now. I thought you were saying
Yeah,
Ekholm
no,
was the one that went down
yeah,
there.
okay. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
I
right.
got
It
what
was
you're saying now.
or Bouchard last minute back.
Yeah, I think
Starfishing.
I agree with you, Lotsy. I think that started with Draisaitl. I think they try and do way too many cute plays, like right at the blue line. If you want to try those plays, get deeper into the zone because the blue line is where that play transitions almost all the time, and they're giving up these danger chances. And yeah, Skinner definitely should have had that one, but yeah, at the same time, you got to give him some run support too, right? A 1-0 hockey game. That's Skinner's been better. It was a bad goal, but 0 goals from a team that was supposed to be an offensive juggernaut this year just isn't good enough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can. Again, I'm not blaming Skinner, and if somebody wants to take that stance that maybe you should have had that or whatever, I mean, I can go still look at the stats, and at the end of the day, it was a 1.12 expected goals against. So I mean, he did his job. They got 1 goal, right? And looking at it the other way, the expected goals for the Oilers was 2.88 or 3.12. I can't remember which side of it was, but that should have been a 3-1 game. Should have been a 3-1 game. Aiden Hill made, I mean, what, 10 stops in the last 10 minutes? 10 shots in 10 minutes? Like, they had a 60-shot pace for that last 10 minutes of the game. And Aiden Hill looked like he was calm, cool, collected, maybe even wearing Garceau's old equipment, Artur Zerbe's pads. I don't know. He looked huge last night. Looked absolutely huge in the net. I don't know if that was just his positioning or what it was, but yeah, goaltending and running into that goaltender was a big part of it. Do you think that Aiden Hill had any motivation knowing that, or do you think they already knew the rosters, or do you think there was any motivation knowing that he was playing Skinner, his potential competition for the net for the Four Nations Cup, Lotsy?
I think they knew the rosters. Like I had seen a post out of Philadelphia saying that like Torts and the guys in Philly knew that Sanheim and Ristolainen and Konechny had made their teams. So like I think they knew. The insiders had it all out yesterday too, right? So like I think the players knew.
Yeah, you'd have to think so.
Yeah, I think Aiden Hill just likes to stick it to the Oilers. So
well, he's pretty bloody good at it, Patrick. I would say.
Is,
yeah, I remember a Stanley Cup final that I'd like to forget. Nath, Big Uke, thanks for coming in. I know you're a big nasty chatter too, and I don't know what our nasty chat's called, the heavy chat maybe or something, but thanks for showing up there, and I like the comment there. Yeah, it was a good team. They're playing a good team, and the good team lost, but that did have a playoff feel all over it, Big Uke says, and I agree, man. It no penalties. That's a big playoff kind of feel, right? When you're just, you can't maybe rely on your special teams. You don't know. And then you coming in again around the net finish is a bigger issue. Totally agree. Some stranger tired of the cute plays. Totally agree. I thought Vegas did a really, really good job last night of keeping us. I know the high danger shot ratio was high based on the shots that were taken, but ultimately I thought they did a really good job of, was it Struddy that said park in the bus? Just like plug in the middle, keeping them to the outside. Had the Oilers playing like 2 trailer park girls around the outside. But then when it came down to it and they got those high danger chances, like they were slot chances and they were driving the nets. So it was almost a tale of two games at some point in time. And I guess that's our Oilers. But Lotsy, again, back to you, like just the playoff feel, should we have won that game? Was there something there that we were missing? Is it the secondary scoring? Should we, did we just get goalie? Did it matter?
I feel like this isn't the first time in recent years where the Oilers have fallen short in one of these big regular season playoff type games, the litmus tests against one of the best teams in the division or one of the best teams in the league. Like whether it's been Vegas or Colorado or some of the better teams in the East over the last handful of years, like the Oilers have had a tough time winning those games in the regular season. For whatever reason, it's like, okay, this is going to be a great matchup between two Stanley Cup contenders here, and who comes out on top? Not usually the Oilers, right? They're usually close games. They're usually good, but for whatever reason, like maybe it's mental, maybe the team just isn't good enough. I don't think that's the case, but yeah, they bring it in the playoffs. It's a little different then, but these big games in the regular season that have the playoff feel to them, the Oilers don't seem to do well. Maybe that's just my observation. I don't know. What do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, well, I agree with you that just sometimes they always seem to rise to the occasion, but they always seem to come in second place in those battles, right? And I think Adin Hill got into their head a little bit. He was making just like sensational saves, like acrobatic all over the place. I mean, it does get in your head after a while. Like, what do we have to do to beat this guy? Like, I think the shots were something like 16-2 or something in the third period. It was something insane anyway. They were just all over him. And I think it's Adin Hill. He's got that history knocking them out in the playoffs. I think he was in their head. But at the end of the day, like, they just simply have to find a way to break through here. I think it was Stoney on X last night that put out a tweet.
Yeah.
It's because Connor Brown just had two or three amazing chances last night, and it was the tweet was something along the lines of, "Brown, this not scoring isn't cute anymore."
Yeah.
It was like a feel good story last year. Not that he wasn't scoring, but like when he finally did score. But yeah, now he was just snake bit last night, and I think Jeff Skinner had a couple great chances too. So it's just the new depth guys they have just can't seem to break through either. So I don't know. I think it's a lot of a mental thing with Adin Hill as well.
Yeah, I think you nailed a couple of things there. The secondary scoring for sure. I think like maybe we can get into this as a general discussion as well, but without Hyman playing up to Hyman levels, I think McDavid looks like he's struggling a little bit. Having the line mates he had last night and Hyman being, struggling or hurt or whatever. Draisaitl just keeps setting guys up and they can't seem to put anything home. The pieces we brought in to bolster our big guys still has the coach putting out McDry in the third period. I don't know when that nuclear option's not going to be an option, but c'est la vie, here we are. And the other thing you touched on was the playoffs and whether Adin Hill was in our head. And I think Adin Hill's in both of your guys' heads. And here's the thing, like, did the Oilers, I'll disagree with both of you. I think we do step up to the big moment games. Now, maybe not in the playoffs when we're about to lose to whoever's about to win the cup, but to get to those games in the playoffs and some of those streaks and, the 18-2-1 that we had going into the playoffs 2 years ago, I would say that we have stepped up in the big games when we needed to, and we're more famous for not coming to play against the backup goalies and not coming to play against the Arizonas of the past and seeming to, I don't know, slam our finger in the car door every time. I just about said something graphic there, but instead of whatever it is that takes to win on those hockey games, to dig deep when you don't think you have to. And I'm going to maybe use that as a segue here because Lotsy has no idea what I'm about to say. Patrick was given a little bit of a hint, but I think I'm about to go full turncoat on myself, you guys. Like I've come to this revelation, I think here. I've been fully backing Ryan Shoggy, I was going to say. Absolutely backing Shoggy on this. Why aren't the Oilers hitting anymore? Why didn't the Oilers hit in the playoffs? We're a soft team to play against. If we don't start hitting, I totally think that. I do. And then, you know what? The other thing that I've totally thought of and totally believed in is, my God, this team needs to play 60. Please play 60. They don't. Again last night. They think that what a hell of an effort. What did somebody, was it Stranger or Uke said like he felt good about that loss? Since the first loss he's felt good about in a long time. But like, play 60. And we don't. And I'm not sure that this leadership group will. It's just who we are. Like it's gone through the cycles of, the 3 years ago was it Talbot? No, was it Koskinen that was letting it, Koski was letting in the first goal, the first shot all the time, and the team couldn't start, and then the team couldn't finish, and now we just can't play 60. Sometimes we start good, sometimes we can't. You know what it is? And I'm okay with it now. I think I'm okay with it. I don't care if they don't hit. I don't care if they don't play 60. Is that crazy? I don't. Here's the thing. In hockey, you got to learn to lose. And in order to learn how to win, you got to learn how to lose. And I think this team is finally starting to turn the corner of looking like a veteran team that knows exactly when to turn it on and exactly when to hold back, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And this team's going to make the playoffs. We all know that. And when they get to the playoffs, it's going to be a different team. It's going to be a different team. They're going to come out and they're going to bang. They're probably going to get 20 hits again. Maybe not. They didn't do it much in the playoffs either. But they're going to play that hard style. They're going to be hard to play against. It's just last year, they tried to take the beginning of the season off and coast in, and we'll start playing hard, and it bit them. It bit them hard. It cost them their coach. This year, I felt like they had a playoff hangover. I felt like they weren't going in out of preseason and into the regular season looking with much of a transition. I didn't think that they were really trying that hard at the beginning of the year. The real basics of our Oilers weren't coming through. And this year didn't bite them. It didn't bite them. You take it Knobloch's 8-game chunks, and they've won 5 out of 8 twice. Just keep doing that, and they're going to be just fine. Like before last night, what were they, like 4 points out of the division lead? And that's without the power play clicking. That's without the penalty kill working well. That's without great goaltending. That's without our defensive depth. That's without our depth scoring not really going yet. That's with our puck luck down. That's with our PDO high. And none of that matters because we'll flip the switch when we get to the playoffs because that's the team we become.
Well, I think getting Evander Kane back will give the team a surge too in that hitting and physical department too, because he tends to get other guys going too. Like even not even just in games and practice, like he's giving guys like the cross check and grabbing them and just trying to get them riled up. And I think when we get him back, and hopefully January is kind of like the last we heard from Kevin Weeks. That'd be a huge insurgence there in the new year for sure.
Yeah. Get banging in the corners, get those other D looking over their shoulders. Remember when Kaner used to go around and like go hit McLeod at practice and then go hit somebody else and get everybody going, right? And that's, I think, like we're missing some of that. You're right, Patrick. You nailed it.
Yeah, I think Kaner coming back will give the team a little bit of a jolt for sure. Sorry, Patrick.
No, I was just going to add a little more than I'm sure. I think Stan Bowman sees that too. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to add someone around the trade deadline that brings some of that physicality too, probably in the bottom 6 as well. So, but yeah, sorry, go ahead, Lotsy there.
Yeah, all good. But like, I look at a team like a Florida or a Vegas that's been good for a number of years now, or like Tampa Bay, the Colorados before that, like those elite teams that are consistently good year over year over year. Like, they have this business-like mentality to them that like they just doesn't matter when, doesn't matter the circumstances, doesn't matter what time of year it is. They just go out and take care of business. Right. The Oilers haven't really developed that quite yet. because every year there's 2 or 3 stretches where we just shut off. Like, we forget how to play hockey, forget how to score, forget how to defend, forget how to play the game.
Yep.
And they figure it out eventually, right? Like, we know they do. They're too good not to. But it's just when they get, I don't know if it's maturity, I don't know if it's just a mental thing, just frustration or fatigue or whatever. But until they get that routine day in, day out, we play this way, no ifs, ands, or buts. And we're going to have these continual lapses for stretches at a time. Like, playing 60 minutes a night, 82 games a year plus playoffs, like, they're human beings. Like, yeah, they're professional athletes and the best athletes in the world, but they're human beings. Like, nobody is going to be perfect for 60 minutes a night times 82 games in a year, right? It's just not possible. And all the good teams have their ebbs and flows as well. It's just, obviously, it's magnified for us watching the Oilers because we follow them so closely, and Canadian market, passionate fan base, all that. But yeah, like, they got to figure it out to figure out a way to just bring it on a day in, day out basis and stop getting into these funks. Like, it can go poorly once in a while, but it can't continue to go this poorly for this long.
Or can it? Or can it? Look at our record. Like, it's
They might be able to limp in, but
well, and I know what you're saying, Lotsy. Like, I would have agreed with you wholeheartedly, hands down, for months, maybe years. I'm just not sure anymore. I don't know. Like, I
so
mean,
you're just confident they're gonna make it. No, they can play however the hell they want. They're too good to miss.
Yeah, kind of, man. I'm getting that way. Like, it's when they get their secondary scoring back, when Skinner actually starts to play like the team in front of him, when the depth defense and the power play is back up to 30%, and we go 8 more games with the penalty kill, and the puck luck balances out, we're going on another double-digit win streak. This game, like, mark my words right now, this team is going on at least another 10-game win streak this year. In fact, timestamp it right now. I'm saying this. I think the Oilers will go undefeated in January again this year. They did it last year. I think they'll do it again this year. Go look at the schedule. We always hum right around that time. And it's a shortened schedule because of the 4 nations, right? So there's a bit of a cheat there, but ultimately that win streak's coming. Like, we're doing what we're doing right now, how with like bits and pieces and parts and 2 superstars, 3, maybe 4 superstars, right? So, like, what happens when it all starts clicking again?
You know, the common denominator for the last 3 seasons here. Sorry, Patrick, I'll let you jump in here in just a moment. But the common denominator is we've had one supplementary forward have just like a career year out of nowhere each of the last 3 seasons. Like, Evander Kane, when he signed on right afterwards, he was unbelievable, just lit it up. It was incredible, and what he did in the playoffs was fantastic. 2 years ago, Nuge got 100 points. Last year, Zach Hyman got 54 goals, right? We don't have anybody on that kind of pace this year.
Chase on before that, Maroon before that. Do you see the common denominator?
Like, there's always, like, there's been one guy that's doing it this year. Like, you look at the percentage of goals that McDavid and Draisaitl have been in on, it's near the league. Like, they're at the top of the league. They got to be. They showed it on one of the broadcasts recently. Like, it's ridiculous. It's like, but who else is stepping up? Like, that's where I'm like, yeah, maybe that 10-game win streak isn't coming. Maybe they're not going to run away with the division because we got no one stepping up aside from Connor and Leon.
Patrick?
Yeah, I was going to say something similar to you, Lotsy. I actually thought they were going to your point, Dash, on the start of a win streak here, because they played well enough to beat Vegas last night. That would have been number 4 in a row.
Yep.
So I can see, to your point, that coming, but also, as Lotsy pointed out there, like, they really don't have anybody coming through on the side. I mean, I think Jeff Skinner has that ability, but he just does not have Chris Knobloch's confidence right now, where he's going to be getting put in those opportunities and if there was anyone that could have used a couple goals last night with the chances he had, it was Jeff Skinner and Connor Brown as well. I mean, maybe getting Zach Hyman back, maybe that time off will give him a charge and he can get some fragment of what he had last year. Maybe Evander Kane coming back in possibly January. Maybe he takes off right away. One of those guys could be the catalyst for that guy we're looking for that kind of drives the team. But yeah, right now it's pretty much just McDavid and Draisaitl, and Arvidsson's chipped in a little bit, but he's been out, and who knows when we're getting him back.
Yeah, it seems to be a big secret.
Yeah.
It's named to Team Sweden, so at least he'll come back by then, hopefully. It's a couple months away, right?
Yeah, they can name her an injury replacement if Harvey's not healthy by then, but like he's got to be, right? We hope.
Yeah. Well, we hope. I'm going to tie a couple comments together here. So Quaddy, our perennial 50 goal scorer, doesn't shoot. Leon's always looking to pass. Why? I think it's because he's trying to get guys going. That said, he's still leading our team in goals and up there in the NHL and leaders in goals scored. So it's not like I think he's passing up opportunities per se. You know, I think he's still obviously nailing them when he can. The Oilers don't play as a team. Two great offensive talents, horrible defense, no goaltending. McBaby. All right. Well, there's some exaggeration in there, but at the end of the day, do we play as a team? I don't know about that yet. There's a lot of things changed. And there's a lot of pieces still trying to figure it out. It's not easy to just go and step into another dressing room and another ice surface in the NHL and find instant chemistry. And for whatever reason, Jeff Jackson decided to move a lot of pieces of the puzzle, right? I think we turned over 3 of our 4 fastest skaters. We turned over potentially our 2 toughest guys. Yeah, I think when those guys were here, we played 2 inches taller. I think I can remember several occasions where Kane was playing right alongside McDavid, and all of a sudden McDavid was getting into scrums after whistles and punching Scheifele and guys in the mouth because Kane's right beside him. And that absolutely can make a guy feel 2 inches taller when he's out there, and it can change the swagger of a team. I don't know where we're going to go with this here. We could go and talk about changes. We could talk about the offseason a little bit. Let's maybe go back and talk about a few of the games before. I don't know if you guys want to touch on anything, you know, from the Rangers game or anything like that. I thought that there was a couple, the Utah game, you know, obviously some big plays that stood out, some big goals. You know, before we go and jump into anything else, do you guys want to touch on games before? Lotsy?
And just I missed the Rangers game too. I've been been a busy guy lately.
Mr. Hockey yourself, yeah.
Yeah, that Utah game, like it's a slow start, but they were able to turn it on and catch up in the third and eventually win the game, right? So like they're almost winning despite themselves in some way, right? Like you're right, they're not playing a full 60 quite yet, but I have noticed as a whole though, like the one thing I will say that I've seen as a trend lately is they're starting to get back to that tight zone defense that Knobloch installed last year when he came in. Like that was really lacking at the start of the season. Like the D just looked discombobulated. It looked like they were playing man most of the time, and the Oilers suck at that. And I think we've learned that over the last few seasons. But they're starting to figure that zone defense out again. It's not super consistent yet, but they're getting better. That's kind of just a trend I've seen.
Yep, I'd add to that by saying it, especially the PK and that system is really starting to get figured out. I think
that's looking a lot cleaner.
Harney and CC were big losses for that PK that was just humming in the playoffs. So to have a guy like Ty Emberson step in and be able to play that system, and you know what, you guys look pretty damn flawless at it in the last 10 games anyways. Kudos to Emberson for picking it up quickly. Kudos for him to step in and find chemistry in the PK. Kudos to Coffey and Stewart for turning that PK around. It's been one of the big differences in I think winning 3 in a row, and probably should have winning last night, although the PK had nothing to do with it. But I find there's a lot more predictability for Skinner now. Shots were coming kind of from all over for the first 15 games of the season from other teams' power plays. And, I kind of look back to, like the 90s Devils or whoever, right? Like Martin Brodeur knew exactly where those shots were coming from. It was either going to be A, B, or C. Whereas I think Struddy put it, whereas this is sometimes Skinner was looking for shots from A, B, C, D, E, F, Y, and G. And now it's kind of more back to that predictability. They got the other teams, shooting from the outside and shooting from low danger spots. And that's honestly been really, really good to see. I think the power play still got some time to click and come around and probably get back up to that world record pace that we're used to. I don't see why it could or should slow down for an entire season. These guys are all still in their 20s. They've been playing together for 4 years now? Bouchard 2, 3 anyways, right? Like that power play should hum. Nuge the puck flows through Nuge on that power play, and he's having maybe one of the biggest off years. What's it going to take for, I guess, how do I want to word this? Patrick, what do you think the next step is? The power play's coming around. The penalty kill, I think, is good now. What do you think the next thing that's going to come around or click? Like what needs to be? Is it the secondary scoring that you keep talking about, or Skinner needs to play better?
I think Skinner has played better. I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but he was above like 900 save percentage the last 4 games or whatever, and he only gave up a single goal last game. So I think Stuart Skinner has found his game over the last 4. That's why the Oilers are nearly on a 4-game winning streak. As like you were mentioning, getting the penalty kill going, that was huge. They had the longest penalty killing streak in the NHL there for a short bit until
8
Colorado.
games.
Yeah, until Colorado got that goal the other night, but. Yeah, like going back to your point there for over the last couple of games, because I saw the Minnesota game and the Rangers game live, and they were just like night and day. Minnesota, they got the lucky goal to start off on Fleury, but then they absolutely refused to go to the net the rest of the game. And then the Rangers game, they're crashing Jonathan Quick, hitting them with all the shots that they should have been doing on Fleury. Like that goal on Marc-Andre Fleury showed he looked a little off, and you could tell the next few plays Fleury looked out of sorts, but the Oilers refused to attack him. And I think something I've seen over the last couple of games, and which has led to their success, is they're attacking the net, and led to 6 goals against the Rangers, where they got 4 against Utah, and there were 4 against Colorado. Like we were talking about, the scoring hasn't been there, and they should have had more last night against Vegas. I mean, that was just Aiden Hill standing on his head. I don't think the offense really dried up. It was just they ran into a hot goalie and mental a bit, like we were talking about earlier. But yeah, to your point, your last point was, I think secondary scoring is really the next part there, and probably getting the power play, like you said, going at a more consistent pace. But I think the penalty kills there, and I think Stuart Skinner is finding his game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think, ultimately, like I said, to top off the show, Vegas just got pumped 6-0 by Utah and embarrassed. There's no way that they weren't coming in, like I said, either kick the proverbial dog or to, get some redemption or to shake it off, whatever, right? They needed to at least get a win back in the column, and why not against their arch rivals, the Edmonton Oilers, if they are their arch rivals, which I'm going to use as a segue. Quick, we'll do a little reset. You're listening to Oilers Live. We are on Edmonton Sports Talk. We are the Friends of Edmonton Sports Talk. We got Ryan Lotsberg here with us. He's our lead writer, editor at Heavy Hockey. Pumps out articles like ... Go ahead and put that in the comments if you want to caption that. And our newest member of the Heavy Hockey Network, Patrick, the Oilers Fanatic. Absolutely pleasure to have you. When I was in high school, I pawned over this girl that I wanted to take to the prom. Her name was Lori, which is also my wife's name, so don't get this confused. And I just was like, man, I told my sister and my mom, I really want to ask Lori out. Like, man, if she would come to the prom with me. And I just like pawned and pawned and pawned. I didn't know how to say anything. And one day she just kind of came up to me in the hallway and she's like, hey, do you want to go to prom with me? I was like, man, that is so sweet. Yeah, absolutely. And Patrick, you kind of did that for me. I've had my eye on you for a while. I just honestly, we've been talking about you. We've been thinking about how well you'd fit in, how your skills fit our needs, and here you DM'd me and said, hey, I know I have skills that you guys need. We're like, yeah, you do. And we've been talking about it. So like, just match made in heaven. Thanks again for being a part of this. Thanks for being part of the family. You have also been listening. You've also been a part of the chat in the past. So I know you are familiar with a little segment I like to call Tell Me I'm Wrong, or maybe we're going to change that up because my wife was listening to something that I was saying the other day, and I think she called me crazy. So I said, you can call me crazy. And I'm like, maybe that's what I should be saying. Call me crazy. But so instead of stealing the name from Hallie and Strudwick and Tell Me I'm Wrong, I think I'm going to change it to Tell Me I'm Crazy. So we've been talking about the secondary scoring. We've been talking about the Oilers. We've been talking about the past. We've been talking a little bit about Four Nations Cup. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more of that moving forward. But we are going to get into this segment. Okay, so at the beginning of the year, Jeff Jackson goes and he's looking for secondary scoring, and everybody's pumped because he re-signs his third line from the playoffs, but then he's still somehow able to go out and get themselves a Jeff Skinner and an Arvidsson. I would say that there's a lot of people right now that are, upset with Arvidsson's injury and this big surprise. And that, he was pegged to be right beside Leon and play in the top six and score goals left, right, and center, or at least be, retrieving pucks for Leon and picking up points, and that he hasn't really met expectations. Call me crazy, but Arvidsson's been injury prone his whole damn career. I'd say he's met expectations perfectly. Lotsy, tell me I'm crazy.
I enjoy calling you crazy, but I know it's been like that the last 2-3 seasons. Like, I know there's some recency bias here.
Yeah.
I just want to pull up his hockey DB to see just how many full seasons he's played. A grand total of looks like 2 where he's played over 70 games. So you might be right about that. We have the COVID years in here as well, but it looks like he missed some time there as well. So you're not far off, but yeah, I hate to say you expect a guy to have an injury, but the numbers are what they are.
Well, if it smells like a duck and it sounds like a duck and it, swims like a duck, Patrick, what is it?
Quacks like a duck?
Yeah.
It's a duck. Yeah. No, it's not surprising that he got hurt. Obviously, that's what his history is. I kind of expected him. I don't think you're crazy. Like, I think he was going to get hurt at some point. Didn't think it was going to be this quickly and for this long. I saw him at the fan photo night the other night, and he looked fine. But I guess you can look fine for a photo, right? That doesn't really show. Yeah. But he didn't have his arm in a sling or a boot on his leg or anything like that. So not sure what is wrong with him because they haven't been really forthcoming in that. And I think that's more of a Jeff Jackson thing. The information just doesn't leak out as much anymore. Or they maybe put out false stuff because we've heard that with a few different guys this year. Oh, he's day to day. And yeah, not really the case.
Yeah.
We're like month to month.
Yeah, well, exactly, right? They're either leading us down a trail, which you said, maybe that's on purpose, maybe accidentally on purpose. Or the flip side to that is it's a groin or a hamstring or something that's just snaggy, and you think it's going to be good in a week, and it just doesn't ever get better. I had a hamstring that still bothers me from 2 years ago. So I said I was going to segue into this after calling the Oilers the Vegas arch rivals. Let me ask you guys this, or let me make this statement. The Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers have had the Battle of Alberta for, as long as basically both teams have been in the league. The Vancouver Canucks, have made it to the dance, but not quite there. We've ran into us in the playoffs over the years. We ran into us in the playoffs last year. They might be, maybe our biggest competition in the Pacific for the next 10 years. We keep running into LA year after year after year after we used to run into Dallas year after year after year after year. But I hate losing to Vegas. I hate losing to Vegas. I hate Vegas. I hate the Vegas Golden Knights. I do. Call me crazy, but I think they're our biggest rival. Patrick?
I would say so. And yeah, I think Bob Stauffer put out a tweet to that point yesterday. And I think Vegas sees us as their biggest rival as well. I was actually shocked that we didn't have to play them in the playoffs last year because I think we were all kind of looking for that revenge series and kind of getting back at Vegas anyway. So I was kind of shocked when they were out in the first round and we didn't have to play them. But yeah, I think they are our biggest rival at this point for sure.
Yeah, get that mental monkey off your back, right? You don't want to be going into seasons against Vegas for the next few years thinking that you can't beat them. So it would have been nice for sure. Lotsy?
I don't know if saying they're our biggest rival is the right word. Like, I think they're our biggest challenge, right? Like, rival, I think, is like there's hatred, right? There's a back and forth there. There's a little bit of that with Vegas, but I don't think there's a ton of like hatred between the two teams. I mean, I'm with you. I hate them too. Like playing in the playoffs and the Pietrangelo slash on Draisaitl, that was enraging. It feels like we always lose to them in the regular season, but apparently our record against them is actually pretty good. Who is our biggest rival? I'm just trying to think. We play LA all the time, but that's not really a rivalry because they don't win against us hardly ever. Vancouver was turning into a nice little rivalry last year. So maybe that's our most entertaining one right now. Hard to say. We have a few.
Yep.
Yeah, I think when Calgary gets back up to that point, like obviously Battle of Alberta is always the biggest thing, but I think, well, I guess Calgary hasn't started horrible. They've petered off, but once they get back to being a powerhouse, I think that'll be the real entertaining matchup.
Oh yeah. They're the ones we hate the most.
Yeah.
Deep down.
Yeah.
I do.
And Vancouver. I really have grown to hate Vancouver even more.
Yeah, there's something about you know what I hate more about Vancouver is their fan base's attitude. It's honestly what does it for me. I can talk to a Flames fan and be civil after a few minutes. It's just there's something about the arrogance or the bandwagonish nature of right. Like I had people texting me in the playoff series last year who didn't even know the first name of their first line center and going, ah ha ha, we beat you. Like family members, right? Like where have you been? Come on. Like, go away. All right. Well, we talked a little bit about the rest of the league there. Let's talk about maybe some of the nationalities of where the rest of the league comes from. No, you know what? I got one more before we get into Four Nations. Let's do this one. I'm really curious in this debate only because I was completely enthralled when Struddy and Rashog were having it. So this debate went on, and they were talking about, and it started because Struddy made this, I don't know, devastating statement that Makar is a better skater than Connor McDavid, which sounds asinine. How could anybody be a better skater than Connor McDavid? Until the more Struddy talked, the more I agreed with him. I'm going to just say some of their quotes so that I'm, not trying to steal content here, but Makar is as good of or better skater than Connor McDavid was Struddy's statement. Makar is the only D-man not intimidated by 97 speed. When you're a faster skater backwards as you are 97 is forwards, you're a better skater. Cale Makar has better four-way skating skills. We saw what Cale Makar did to Connor McDavid in the playoffs when we went up against the Avs and lost. All of a sudden, Makar was immediately deemed the second best player in the NHL. That was his crowning. call me crazy, but I think Cale Makar is a better skater than Connor McDavid. Lotsy?
I can't do it. I can't call you crazy there. Like they're different. They use different skills in their skating, right? Like a forward, you're more straight ahead, maybe a little lateral. But like Connor McDavid does things with the puck at high speed that nobody else can do, and like the way his feet and his hands work together is unmatched. But if you want to talk about skating as a whole, like you got to include backwards. You got to include things like walking the line and edge
Yep.
work. And I
Yep.
think those are the skills that you see that come out of Cale Makar on a nightly basis that McDavid just doesn't have to show, right?
Yep.
Because it's just positional nature. So yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
And I know when you say edge work, you're meaning it as a, combination of walking the line and doing, and in all directions, because nobody's
Yeah,
taking
like
anything away from Connor McDavid's edge work. But, you know, I see. Yeah, I see what he's saying. I really do.
how do you work in the 10-2 position? How do you pivot from going how do you change direction forwards to
Yeah.
backwards, right? It's things like that. Like I played forward all my life, and I started playing defense in hockey the last 2-3 years, and it's a totally different type of skating.
It's a different world.
Yep.
Absolutely. Like, what is more intimidating than being on the only defenseman on a 2-on-1 with two guys that are absolutely dynamic skaters coming on, like trying to decide when to close a gap, trying to decide when to pinch, trying to decide when to play the pass versus the shot in the fastest game in the entire world. Man, like, I don't know what's harder than playing defense in the NHL. I really don't. Patrick, call me I'm crazy, but I think Cale Makar is a better skater than Connor McDavid.
I agree, because I think going backwards, doing the defense is a harder skill. Like, I'm going forwards, Connor's the best skater. Like attacking, I think Connor's the best skater in the league. But I think when you're going back and defending, and he is probably the one defenseman that can effectively defend Connor McDavid. So yeah, I would agree with that statement.
And I think the flip side is, McDavid can probably do better things with the puck at high speeds than Cale Makar.
Yeah.
And then maybe this kind of leads to the same synonyms or whatever you want to use. We talk about McDavid being, okay, Gretzky's the greatest. Nobody's ever going to argue that. Nobody's ever going to debate it. He's the greatest of all time. He'll always be the greatest of all time. But Connor McDavid versus Wayne Gretzky in a one-on-one is a no contest, because Connor McDavid's a more skilled player. He's a more dynamic player. He's a more exciting player. He's, use whatever synonym you want.
Yeah, as Stoffer always says, McDavid is the most advanced player in the world, or that there's ever been, right?
Right. So let's just use those same words as, he's the most advanced puck handler. He's the most, whatever, versus Makar. But when it comes down to getting from A to B in whatever direction you need to, laterally forward, I'll take Cale Makar. I will. And I'm going to keep these same two players for my last one. All right. So Team Canada, we've all heard the rosters. We've got 6 to 9 elite skaters on forward. We've got 2 or 3 maybe of the best centers in the entire universe. We've got 12 forwards that can score probably at any time. We'll have goaltending that's okay. Definitely average or below average versus the peer group that's out there in the Four Nations. Like I said, 6 to 9 elite skaters, 2 or 3 of the best centers, 12 forwards that can score. Any one of those 2 or 3 goalies can do it. But we've got one defenseman that can keep up with the rest of the world in this style of tournament on the back end, and it's Cale Makar. Call me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm crazy. Call me crazy. Cale Makar is more important to Team Canada's success than Connor McDavid. Patrick?
Okay. Yes, I will say that, because there's enough other offensive weapons, and it's not all on Connor McDavid when it's Team Canada. He's got a pretty good selection of players around him, but their ability to defend the attack of the other three countries is definitely going to be massive in this tournament, especially with the talent on the other teams. I mean, like, there's no pushover team in this tournament, as there shouldn't be. But yeah, I think Cal Makar defense will be more important in this tournament than Connor McDavid for sure.
Lotsy?
I'm going to disagree because I think Canada has, of the four, I think they might have the weakest forward group. Like, I think the States are stacked. I think Finland and Sweden are both really deep on forward. And so I think they're going to need Connor McDavid to to pick up some of the slack from the bottom end. Like Connor McDavid, they need their big boys to dominate this tournament if they're going to have a chance, in my opinion.
Michael Kerber's in on the chat. I'm not just crazy, I'm insane. That's okay. I've heard worse. Yeah, I think it's unique, right? It's kind of like saying we'd be okay if McDavid got hurt, but if Stuart Skinner got hurt, we'd be really screwed. Well, then Stuart Skinner's a better player than McDavid. It doesn't exactly like the mutual exclusivity between those two things, right? I mean, I think he does. I think Makar becomes the key component to. Do you guys remember in the Olympics when Drew Doughty was our best player?
Like 2010 when he was like rookie or second year player.
Yeah, nobody took over games in those Olympics like Drew Doughty. And I just like I'll never forget that. And I think that that's the type everybody else kind of chops off. Right? Like if you look at that loaded American lineup, or you look at the speed on that Swedish lineup, look at the goaltending the Swedes have. Look at the defensemen the Swedes have. Look at you could take 3 of the defensemen the Swedes cut and they'd make our team. So
that's what Sweden does, though.
Yeah, it's just been a Nicholas Lidstrom factory ever since. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, no, that is what they do, and they produce goalies really well as well. So. Four Nations Cup. What did let's just start with general comments. Like, what did you guys think of the rosters? You can start with Canada. You can talk about all 4. What was a surprise for you? What was a no-brainer for you, Lotsy?
I kind of touched on it a little bit already. Like I think the States are just stacked. Like they've got depth up and down the lineup. They've got some big names on their team, and their goaltending is easily the best in the tournament. And that's even over. Like Sweden's got a couple of really good ones in Jacob Markstrom and Philip Gustafsson, who's having a fantastic season so far. Yep. And then a guy like UC Saros, who's been great for a long time in Finland. I think the Finns and the Swedes are kind of the meaty middle, like both really solid, deep teams, like 4 lines deep, lots of scoring talent. It's just Canada, like I've been feeling like they're kind of the weak link in this group, and this is the first time in my life I feel like I've had to say that.
Isn't that something? And I'm not sure I can disagree with you.
Yeah, I was looking at the Team Canada roster tonight, and like, usually you get super excited and just like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's obviously some great players on there, but you don't get as like pumped up like going back to like Salt Lake and all those like friggin' like all-star teams, and just it's a very good team, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm not as confident going into this tournament as you normally are for Team Canada.
Yeah, like wasn't Jerome McGinley the 13th forward on that team? You know what I mean? Like
Canada, they always bring in guys who you don't expect to make the team because they fill certain roles. Like I think that's why you see a Brandon Hagel there. Like he's had a fantastic start to the season, like above and beyond any expectations I would ever have for him. But I think a lot of that is just because of the way he can check and kill penalties and all that. And like Sam Bennett, again, good player, having a good year, but he's physical, right? There's not a lot of the other guys in the Canadian roster who bring that element. Like Seth Jarvis, that's a surprise. The kid's really good. I'm high on the player. I had him as a dark horse to make the team, but like there were lots of other guys that have put ahead of him.
I'm watching the Dallas Kings game here, and Brad Marchand was interviewed after the first period, by the NHL panel. So it was the Biz and all those guys that were asking, and Ace asked him, or Anson Carter asked him, like, who's the player you're most looking forward to playing with? Guess who he said?
Marchand probably says Crosby.
Yeah, you'd think so. McKinnon, these Halifax boys. Oh, maybe it's McDavid because he's the best player that's ever played the game. Nope, Seth Jarvis.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He said,
Why?
all I
Like, what
keep
was his
hearing.
rationale?
His second sentence to follow it up was, just all I've heard is how great of a guy he is and how awesome he is in the room, and I just can't wait to play with a guy like him. So, I think when it came down to that bottom six or the bottom three of that Canada forward lineup, I mean, we kind of went back to the old Robbie Zamner kind of type of mentality where we built that roster reactively instead of proactively. Does that make sense? Like, it's almost like we could have loaded that fourth line with 3 more guys that could score and wheel, but we tried to get the Sorellis and the guys, the Hagels, and the guys that can play defense. That's why Hyman should have been on the team. Why is that?
It looks like Hyman can do a lot of those things. He can retrieve pucks for you. He has done PK work for you. But 54 goal scorer last year, McDavid's main winger, right?
Yep.
That's why Chris Kunitz made the 2010 Olympic team. So there's an argument for Hyman there. But he and a couple other Oilers fell off the radar with their poor starts this year. It's like, do you guys think that there are any Oilers that should have made Team Canada?
I think Bouchard should have made it. I think we're going to look back 5-6 years from now and be like, Bouchard didn't play? What? That said, I kind of understand what they did a little bit. Like, the Parayko thing's a little confusing, but
yeah, that's really confusing to me too.
I also get, okay, let's get the hulking 6'7" guy out there that's good at penalty kill, that's good at shutting down other teams, that's good at clearing the crease, that's still a good puck mover from the back end, given his size. I get all that. Makar can't do everything on that power play, or if Makar gets nicked up at all, like, I don't see any of those other guys as a true power play quarterback. I see what they did with the chemistry side of things, right? Like, it's okay. We kept the Avs pairing together. We kept the Vegas pairing together. We got the three Lightning, if you count Sorelli, and right, there's all this kind of chemistry, which, again, yeah, why wouldn't you have Bouchard? Hyman probably played himself off the team, unfortunately, with just his statistics this year. I think he's been snake bitten a little bit. His play's still been good. But that's it. Like, I don't think Skinner should have made the team. And I think that was just a little bit of background talk. Even if it wasn't Montembeault, for me, it still would have been like a Marc-Andre Fleury. So yeah, I think that Bouchard is my big pick there. Patrick, do you think somebody should have made the team that didn't from the Oilers?
Yeah, I'd say Bouchard was borderline just because, I mean, he has improved defensively here and there, but he is like more of an offensive guy. I think if his game was a little bit more consistently well-rounded, he probably would have been more of a lock for that team. But I think on his offense alone, he would have been a worthy candidate. I think I think I read this as well today that if the Oilers had won the cup, I think Stuart Skinner would have been almost a lock if they were coming off being the Stanley Cup champions, even if he was struggling a bit to start the year. You'd probably want the goalie that won the Stanley Cup last year. So that might have played against Skinner as well. And then obviously struggling a little bit to start the year. So Skinner and Bouchard were probably borderline there, but yeah. And if Hyman had started like he did last year, he would have been a lock for the team too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely fair.
Yeah.
I would have had Bush as my number 7D. Like, I think there's Canada is loaded at right D. Like, that's one position they're really strong at right now. Like, there's some guys left off. Like, I'd have had Dougie Hamilton in there. I'd have looked at Aaron Ekblad. Parayko is just confusing to me. Like I had heard a couple days ago they'd be looking at some size. I think that was John Cooper in some piece I read.
Well,
but so Parayko makes sense from that perspective, but that
Ekblad's not
perspective
small.
alone.
Ekblad's
What's
not
that?
small. Ekblad's
No,
not
Ekblad's
small.
not small, and he's a really good defender, right?
Just
Bouchard's
came
not
off of
even
winning a
small.
cup, So I think it's, we can look at one thing and one thing only, and one reason that Parayko made the team. And it's
Nice.
probably the same reason that Binnington will be the starter.
Did very well. And I know Don Sweeney was a little bit more involved with this team, and Armstrong's supposed to be more involved with the Olympic team in 26. But like you never know. There's some input there, right? And John Cooper's head coach. So why do you think all those Lightning players made it? Right? It's not a coincidence. I'm sure they did their due diligence in looking for other players. But I think you go with what you know when you're entering a little 3-game round robin tournament like this. But yeah, I'd have had Bush as my number 7. I think Hyman and Skinner both played their ways off the team. Unfortunately, Hyman's just not been able to keep up with his goal scoring pace from last year. I didn't expect him to, but I also didn't expect such a precipitous drop off as we've seen from him this year. And Skinner, yeah, it's just slow start. And I didn't realize they were naming the roster so soon. I was really high on Skinner making this team and starting. I thought he'd figure it out by the time this tournament started happening, but yeah, not to be.
I'm going to stop you
I was surprised
right
at
there.
Montembeault. I was surprised at Montembeault. Like I was thinking maybe Logan Thompson because he was so hot to start the year.
Oh, and Montembeault wasn't hot to start the year? Go check his stats out, man. Like, Montembeault has been absolutely...
He's good, but like I think the fact that he plays in Montreal kind of goes against him a little bit, in my opinion. Like he's not stealing games for them, but maybe I'm sleeping on Montembeault. I don't know.
They're the worst team in the league, and his statistics when he plays are pretty epic, and that says a lot about a goalie right there, because Stuart Skinner plays to the level of the team in front of him. That's his pedigree. That's his DNA. If the team in front of him struggling and all over the place, and his lateral movement starts getting exposed, and it's not good anymore. When the team in front of Skinner plays epic, he plays epic. It's just kind of the way it is. He's not the guy that steals you games. Again, would have loved to see like a Marc-Andre Fleury sneak his way into the roster too, just to have that veteran presence, and who knows,
That's
right?
the room guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like pranks.
One of the things I'm most excited about, I think, is watching McKinnon, Crosby, and Marchand play on the same line. I know if Michael wasn't soft and was on the show, he would definitely be bringing up the Halifax connection. So I'll just do that on his behalf. Halifax, rah, rah, rah. Don't put lettuce in your donaires. I'm really excited to kind of see that connection. I think like the whole Crosby McKinnon thing is pretty cool. Really excited to see who Connor McDavid can create chemistry with outside of an Edmonton Oiler. But all of that, I'm going to jump right back into the chat. Kenny Sharp, good. Our players can use the rest. That's where I was going to stop you, Lotsy. You're a little disappointed you seem that Skinner didn't make the team. I by no means, under any circumstances, wanted Stuart Skinner to make that team. He played 80 games last year. He never played more than 50 in a season, probably. Counting the playoffs, it might have been more than 80 last year, to be honest. We're going to count on, CP to take on his 30 or whatever it's going to be this year. And if we're going to take another deep run into the playoffs, we're going to need another 80 games from Skinner. I don't need him playing in the Four Nations Cup. I don't.
There's definitely some merit to that.
Go take a break. Hyman, totally cool. Take a break. Heal what ails you. We need you in the playoffs. Knock on wood 3 times. Nobody gets injured in these tournaments. Nobody wants to see any of that. But it's likely going to happen. And I'd just rather it's not an Oiler. Yeah. Would have liked to see Celebrini. What are you guys' thoughts on Bedard, Celebrini not making the team?
Go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that guy saw Jackie talking about it in our chat, Connor Bedard not making the team, and I was kind of surprised. Yeah, like you would think maybe maybe on the fourth line or something like that. Just like obviously he's not going to play near the top, but just a little. I'm a little surprised Bedard isn't in there. Macklin Celebrini is pretty new, so I think, but Bedard's in his second year. He could probably have helped, but Canada is stacked. So I mean, I can see him being left off for a more player that kind of fits something that they're looking for. But yeah, I would have probably put Bedard on there.
I mean, ultimately, this is a bit of a tryout for the Olympics. I think we all see it as that, which is why I would have loved to have seen Bouchard there, because I really think we'll see him on the Olympic team. And I also think we'll see Bedard and potentially Celebrini on that Olympic team. But does that mean we've got to sacrifice the Four Nations Cup to give him ice time? I don't know. I'm not sure I believe in that. Lotsy, what do you think?
Yeah, if Bedard had had a stronger start to the year, I would have considered it. The one thing I noticed is that we don't have a lot of right-handed centers right now. Not that Bedard's a really good face-off guy by any stretch, but I was considering guys like Tavares, O'Reilly, Scheifele, just because they are better at the draws. But Bedard was on my radar just because he's a right-handed center and kid can shoot, right? The kid's just got high IQ, can play with skilled players. But I'm not upset that he's not on the team just because he's struggled to start the year. And Celebrini, I haven't seen enough of a sample size on him yet. Like a positive start, happy for the kid, excited that he's a good young player in the league. But yeah, not yet.
Yep. Anything else to add on that, Patrick?
No, I think Bedard was the only one I consider. But like I said, at the same time, I'm not shocked that he's not on the team either. So.
Yeah. This kind of lends into a debate I was having with another friend of mine when he said I was asinine. So maybe I'll throw in one more to call me I'm crazy. I told him that I didn't think Connor Bedard was ever going to win a Hart Trophy. And here's kind of some of the thought behind it before you go down your guys' thought process. There's a lot of stars in the league right now. I almost hate the term. I've come to the point where I hate the term generational player because we just can't keep calling people generational players every 2 years. It's like it's the literal definition of generation is once in a lifetime. You know, Gretzky, Lemieux, or you know, there's definitely out there. McDavid's a generational player. You know, whatever that tier below generational is, let's just use that for everybody else. And there's a lot of them, right? I think Draisaitl's 29. Matthews is 27. McKinnon's 29. McDavid's 27. 27. Look at who's coming up. I don't know much about James Hagens this year, but I can't stop hearing about Gavin McKenna in 26. And you know who's going to be better than anybody else that's been drafted since McDavid? It's the next year, 2027, Landon DuPont. That kid from Calgary that's playing in Everett, unbelievably special. Got exceptional status in the WHL, second guy in the WHL after Connor Bedard to get exceptional status. He's racking up 2 points a game. He's like plus 13 or something already as a 15-year-old in the WHL.
That kid's insane.
Absolutely insane. And that's a defenseman, you guys. He's a defenseman.
Isn't he already putting up a higher points per game rate than McDavid did in his 15-year-old year?
Yeah, as a defenseman.
As a defenseman.
Right? So, like, is Owen Power going to sneak one in? Is Darlene going to sneak one in? Is any of those guys that were drafted first overall going to ever sneak in a Hart Trophy? Jack Hughes maybe is due one. Maybe the Eastern guys want to throw Mitch Marner one. I don't think, call me crazy, but I don't think Connor Bedard, he's like this generation's Brett Hull. He's a great guy to have on your team. He's a great winger to have beside you. He's probably not going to be the most valuable player in the league.
No, I think he could just be called an amazing player. Like, and I don't think that should be an insult. You're right. Just an amazing player.
Yeah. Like, do you know how hard it is to win a Hart and a Pearson? Like, you literally need to be how many hockey players are in the world? Millions and millions and millions. Like, to be the best in the world for a single season it's okay if Bedard doesn't do that. You know, I'm not being an a-hole. right? I
The
don't
big
know. What do
thing
you?
with winning a Hart is you gotta be on a good team usually, right? It doesn't happen often where a guy that's on a non-playoff team wins a Hart trophy, and the Blackhawks are a long ways away from being good. So you're right, a lot of competition for that award. Like there's some big players that still have quite a few years of primetime hockey left,
Yeah.
and some other kids that are competing for it with Bedard. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he gets one. Like you don't know how the Hawks are going to develop in the next 5 years, so you never know. They might turn a quarter and get real good, and Bedard has a crazy year. You never know. I wouldn't
If
rule it out.
he scores 70 or 75, maybe, right? But like,
Yeah.
then McDavid can't get 130 points that year, and like I don't know, like there's just so much competition for a trophy like that, and if you look at the past, it gets passed around to the guys that like it's an honor, right? Like the guys that get it almost always are in that club that they're absolutely exceptional players. So, anyways, well, I'm glad you guys agreed with me on almost everything. Almost everything. All right. Well, hey, I think let's just talk a little bit about the week ahead, and then we'll do a quick reset and talk about our socials and let Patrick have the last word and probably say goodnight. So we got about 15, 16 minutes to go. Let's what do we got? Columbus. I gotta get my schedule out. Columbus on Thursday, St. Louis on Saturday, Tampa on Tuesday, and then we'll be back on the air on the 11th. So we got 3 games. They're all at home. I would just like to say that I was 100% correct on my predictions. I said we'd have a hangover coming back from the road trip. I said we'd struggle against the Wild. I apologized to Patrick that he was going to be going to the game live and see them lose. Dash called it. But I'd like to hear what you guys think's going to go on this little weeky poo to come here. So 3 up, 3 at home. Lotsy, what do you got, buddy? What's going on? What's going to happen?
So I know there's a little ceremony going on before the Columbus game on Thursday, celebrating a certain somebody's 1,000th point milestone. That'll be a nice little treat for everybody in attendance, and for the boys. I think they'll rally and win that one. Columbus just played a real heavy game in Calgary with celebrating Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. That was a real tough game for everyone involved, so I think they might be feeling the effects of that a little bit.
Yeah, a little emotional hangover. Yeah, good point.
So I think the Oilers win that game. St. Louis welcoming back Holloway and Broberg, and that's another conversation we can have as well.
Sure.
But
sure.
That feels like a trap game to me. Not a trap game. Like I feel like we're gonna lose that one. That just feels like what's gonna happen to me. In Tampa at home, anything can happen in that game. Those are usually fun. But they beat us last time, so I'll say we'll get them this time. So 2-1 on this little 3-game run before we get on air next week.
2-1 clean. All right, I don't mind that. Patrick.
Yeah, I think we're going to take Columbus tomorrow. I really want us to take down Broberg and Holloway on Saturday. And then, Tampa next Tuesday. I'm going to say we go 3-0. We run the table because they've been playing really well the last 4 games. They should have won against Vegas. So I'm going to say they run the table 3-0.
Yeah. That's what probably happens. I do kind of feel like I'm going to fall back and agree with Lotsy. It's just such an Oilers thing to let ex-Oilers score. Like it's
they're
just
going to score for sure.
It's almost a guarantee. Like if you're on Coolbet or any of them, like take Broberg and Holloway to get a point. Like parlay that till the cows come home.
Yeah, that's a given. Yeah.
Although I'm still upset that I lost like $50 on betting on Yamamoto scoring against the Oilers in his return and he didn't do it. So maybe not. Maybe not. So yeah, I think it'll be a 2-1, maybe a 1-1-1. I don't know who they go into OT against. Maybe that's the St. Louis game. But yeah, I kind of see it being a 1-1-1 kind of homestand, I guess we'll call it. It's only 3 games. Then they'll be going into Minnesota on the road, and then the rest of the games are at home all the way up until Christmas. So December's a friendly month for us, and I think we'll probably start humming a little bit after that, these next 3 games. And like I said, I really think that January is going to be strong for us as well. Lotsy, you said you wanted to touch on Broberg Holloway maybe. And you know what that made me think of is that we have made an absolutely massive mistake tonight. And we owe everybody an apology. We have not said Podgolzen's name once. Okay. So we lost Broberg. Yep. We lost Holloway. Yep. Interesting to hear the comments coming out around Bowman saying that he was so taken back and surprised, and then some of the insiders coming and saying, oh, there's like 4 teams that were going to offer a sheet. So how surprised could you be, Bowman? But I digress. I don't know, where should we go with this?
Well, we can 2-part question. Do you miss Holloway and Broberg right now? And who do you think is won so far? The Oilers or Blues?
Oh, it's the Blues have won. I think Broberg's probably I'm more upset about losing Ceci as a result of all of this, I think, to be honest. Emerson and Podkolzin are the kind of de facto replacements for those 2 guys. And I'm not disappointed with either one of their play. They're certainly cheaper than what, the cost that Emerson and Podkolzin come in at versus the $7 million we would have had to pay those guys. It's tough to see them put up points, but I don't think either one of them would have been the linchpin or catalyst or tipping point to us winning a Stanley Cup. Patrick?
I miss Broberg the most, although I was looking forward to see what Holloway could eventually become this year. I think he just needed a year where he didn't get hurt, and I guess Broberg, same story there. But Broberg was just a screw up from the start for this organization. He should have been with the team a couple years ago. We probably could have had Kulak and him. One of Kulak or Ceci wouldn't be here if Broberg was here, I think, ahead of time. But yeah, I think Philip Broberg's the one I miss the most, but I would still like to have both of them. But as you said, at the same time, I'm also really happy with both Podkolzin and Eberson. So the Blues, I think, have won to this point, but I'm indifferent. I really like Podkolzin, and I think he could become something maybe even greater than Dylan Holloway could have. So we might end up winning that one, but defensively, obviously, Broberg for Emerson, we're losing that one and losing Ceci as well. And Blues win that portion of it for sure.
Yeah. I've always seen Holloway as a Taylor Hall light. He's not going to win a Hart Trophy, Taylor Hall, but spends 30% of the time on the ice and flopping around and falling around. He's just going so fast in every direction that you don't know which way's up or down, and those guys get hurt a lot. And I just think he would have been that 60 game a year player for us, and not really ever get the opportunity to see what he could really produce because he ain't doing anything on the power play but handing somebody a water bottle.
Well, I guess too, the question is Dylan Holloway going to be a better fit than Jeff Skinner would have been? You put Holloway in Jeff Skinner's spot. Do we see more offense in that? Do we see Holloway breaking out here with more goals than we're seeing from Jeff Skinner? So.
Well, I mean,
we're seeing it already.
yeah. If he'd be only playing with better players in Edmonton, so unless he's found some sort of epic chemistry in the games I haven't seen in St. Louis, I don't know. But yeah, if he was due for a breakout, he's due for a breakout. The whole Jeff Skinner
cost less than Skinner too.
yeah.
I mean,
the whole
if we had known that Skinner and Arvidsson were going to struggle like they have so far, Holloway would have been a real nice insurance policy, right? I love Podkolzin, and I really enjoy what he's brought to the table, but he's not putting up 8 goals, 15 points already, right? He's not doing what Holloway's doing.
The Skinner thing's weird, right? It's I'm really intrigued to see what playoff Jeff Skinner looks like. Like, you can't just keep a guy out for his entire flipping career and then put me in, coach, and not perform. Like, I just like if those aren't the best games of his career, then we got the wrong guy. He can't be waived. He can't be traded. I don't know. Should he be playing ahead of Podkolzin or Nuge right now? No, I don't know.
I like the chemistry on with Podkolzin and Draisaitl, whereas Skinner has never been known as a defensive stalwart, and Leon has his moments. Like that was the thing
Draisaitl,
that scared me about that Skinner Draisaitl Arvidsson line coming into camp was
yeah.
the defensive side of the puck. Like I never liked that as the second line. Like I thought Skinner should have been up on the top line with McDavid and Hyman. Right, put Nuge a little bit more of the defensive responsibility, the defensive conscious on there with Arvidsson and Skinner and Draisaitl.
Dry loves puck retrievers on his line. Dry loves sitting in the sweet spot and like, hey boy, go get me that puck. Right. And it's like Yamo, Puljujärvi, RV, now Pods, like go dig.
And he needs
Well, I think-
somebody with speed.
Yeah.
Well, I just remember watching back the Oilers Plus episode on the drop where they were talking about on July 1st, the players they picked up. And I think it was someone else pointed out too that Chris Knobloch did not look enthused when they were announcing that they were going after Jeff Skinner. So I don't know if Chris Knobloch was the biggest fan of bringing in Jeff Skinner from day one. So he might have had a lot more to prove to Knobloch than other guys, and he's not proving it. So it's like,
Yeah.
I didn't know if I even really wanted you here to start with, and you're not really showing me anything that makes me want to change my mind on that. So
Yeah, you can even see it in Knobloch's face when he says things in the post game, like, "Oh, whatever line I put Skinner on, he'll improve that line." So that's why I keep sticking him on the third and fourth line. It's like, huh?
Keep giving it 6, 7, 8 minutes a night.
Yeah. You're so good at improving everybody else out there. Gonna let you do it for 7 minutes. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a little off to me for sure. Like everybody was giving Jeff Jackson high fives in the air and hypothetical A's and A pluses, and all of a sudden it's boiled down and like I'm not even sure anymore, right? And like look at these 2-year contracts with Brown and Perry and Ryan. Like who's getting scratched every night? The guys you gave your 2-year contracts to first before you negotiated with anybody else. Like I almost feel like there's a Duncan Keith thing coming with those guys. Like, do you think Perry and Ryan are actually going to retire at the end of this year? But they gave him the 2-year deal so they can take some money into retirement. Kind of like I think that was part of the whole Duncan Keith deal. I think it's like, yeah, I'll retire before that last year, and that's why you don't have
Was
to give
Perry a
Chicago
2-year deal? I think he was only a 1-year deal.
Oh,
Was he? Oh, I
Perry-
thought Perry.
yeah, Perry and Ryan are both one.
Oh, where the hell's
Ryan
my
did
head?
sign a 2-year
This
deal,
is
but
the
he's on
second
year
year
2.
of Ryan's
Right.
deal, but Perry was only ever a 1-year deal this year.
Why did I think Perry had a 2-year deal this year? Huh. Or was it $2 million? That's where my head is. What did he get paid?
And that's
Too
even
much.
wrong.
Too much.
1.4.
Yeah, it's 1 year,
1.4.
1.15, but he's got a potential
Yeah,
250K
I need
potential
more
bonus.
sleep. All right. Well, I thought Skinner was a 2-year as well, or not Skinner. Holy, now I can't even say their names right.
We had to
Anyways,
disagree with you at some point. So
there you go.
There you
Call
go.
me crazy.
You're crazy.
But, I just thought that the priorities were in the wrong place is still my point, I guess. Yeah. Sorry for thinking Perry was a 2-year
He
deal.
did
I
some
don't know what
discount shopping, and like there were some reasons that Skinner was available. Like he just got bought out from Buffalo. $9 million. He wasn't he wasn't worth $9 million. Him at $3 million is worth a risk, but like the guy got bought out for a reason. And then Arvidsson, injury issues, right? He was available for a reason. 32-year-old coming off a season where he only played 18 games because of a back injury. Right? So you get what you pay for sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's very fair. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that part of it plays out. I mean, he's either going to play himself back in Knobloch's book or I don't know. I don't know what else you can do with him. Like with a full no movement, I don't even think you can be sent to the minors, can you?
He'd have to be waived, and I don't think he can be
I don't
waived.
think he can be waived.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to find a spot for him at some point in time or get him going right? Like Knobloch can't just keep pushing him to the side or we're going to have a guy come the end of the year, the playoffs. It's taking a lot of cap that we can't move. So I don't
Well,
know.
there
Yeah,
might be another
absolutely.
playoff team that might be willing to take a chance on him that he'd waive to go to. Because I don't
Yeah,
think he's going to
fair.
go.
Yeah,
He's not going to waive to go to a bad team, but there might be another playoff team like, well, we're going to try him here,
go
and we
back to
think he might work.
Carolina or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's
But-
fair. All right, guys. Well, time flies when you're having fun. But we're rolling up on the 90 here, and I kind of like wrapping these up while we're still on Edmonton Sports Talk. So let's do that. Lotsy, I'm going to give you last couple words if you want before we give the honorary last words to our newest member.
Yeah, absolutely. This is probably something we should have brought up earlier in the show, but I've had a real issue with Bouchard and Ekholm as a pairing recently. Underlying numbers have been fantastic as always, but there was a 5-game stretch there where they really were not. They were allowing high danger chances against at a far higher rate than the team average, and they've been outscored at 5-on-5. It's now I did a post over a 10-game period, and they were being outscored 9-11, and that was saved by the Ottawa game where Bouchard was 3-0 and Ekholm was 2-0. Like, it seems every game they're on the ice for a goal against, and it's costly. Last night, same thing. They were on the ice, even though I don't think it was their fault, but they were on the ice when the goal happened. So I think top pairing needs to be better.
Yep, that's right. I agree. Where do we find you on your socials, Ryan?
So you can see my hashtag there at Lots Ryan on X, and at HH Lotsy at the Blue Place, the Blue Sky app. I'm there as well.
Awesome. Sounds good. Patrick, tell people where to find you. Last word. Only rule, say goodnight at the end. And when you do, we'll stop the show. Thanks for coming on, buddy. It's been a blast.
yeah. No, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Just want to thank both of you, the entire crew at Heavy Hockey. It's been so welcoming. It just first few days, just loved every single second of it. Just want to say I'm so excited for joining Heavy Hockey, and we've got a lot of big goals here. Would love to hit 2,000 subs on the YouTube channel by Christmas. That's going to be our big lofty goal. So if this is your first visit here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. We're going to have a lot of great hockey content for you here in the months and years to come. So just can't wait to see what Heavy Hockey can grow into. You guys can find me also on YouTube at the Oilers Fanatic, and on Twitter or X, Instagram, Blue Sky at Oilers Fanatic YT. Good night, everybody.